Okay, thanks everybody for coming to my talk. I'm going to talk about programming languages and why you should learn them. So, has anybody read this book, The Pragmatic Programmer? See a lot of hands. They suggest that you should learn a programming language every year. And why is that? Because, as they say, either you end up using that language for something, or you will learn something that you can apply in the languages that you do use. So either way, it will make you a better programmer, is the reasoning. So why should I learn a small unknown language in the age of AI? Because AIs will not be able to help me with this language because they're not trained on it. Well, the argument still applies. It can still transform the way you think about the languages that you do use, and in that way make you a better programmer. So I'm going to talk about a bunch of languages, and for each language I'm going to tell you a little bit about what the language is, whether its creator has a beard, what FizzBuzz looks like, what makes it interesting, and how the language changed my thinking. So beard, yes, in 2008 there was this viral blog post where somebody found out that there was a very strong correlation between the popularity of a programming language and the length of the beard of its creator. So popular languages, creator has a long beard. So my name is Jan. I work for Yoink in Utrecht. I also work on Equals Verifier, which you may or may not know, and you can find me online. So, first language. I guess most of you will know this one. It turns 30 this year. It's used for enterprise applications. It's object-oriented. We all know this, right? So the creator is James Gosling, and he totally has a beard. So, well done. This is what FizzBuzz looks like, so no surprises there, I guess. And what makes it interesting, to me at least, is its backward compatibility story. So you can compile a program in Java 1 and run it in Java 24, and it will just work. Not a lot of languages can do that. The way it changed my thinking is that it introduced me to the Java community, which allowed me, for, among other things, to be standing here. So visiting conferences, changing thinking, yeah, that's going to work. So thank you, Java, for that. Next language, BASIC. It's been mentioned before today in Hanno's talk. Maybe you've seen it. It's a very old language, mainly used for teaching. It's imperative. Typing is weak, but static, and you indicate a type with something called a sigil, like a dollar sign after the name. The creators were these guys, and the lack of beard indicates the impopularity, at least in terms of usage in the enterprise and in the professional world. It looks like this. Notice the line numbers at the beginning. You can jump to them and maybe or maybe not jump back. What made the language interesting, though, is that it was pre-installed on computers in the 80s. So if you boot one up, you end up in a programming environment, and you could just start programming right away. And that's how a lot of people, including me, got a start in programming in the 80s. And in fact, I used to do this on my grandmother's computer, so I don't think many people can say here that my grandmother taught me to program. This is a screenshot for my master's thesis. So that really was my introduction to programming. PHP, same age as Java, surprisingly, used for backend applications. It's imperative. Typing is weak and dynamic, interpreted. And this guy has invented the language. And even though it's very pervasive, it's being used everywhere, people don't like it for some reason, so I guess that's due to the beard. If he had one, it would have been more popular. It looks like this, not very surprising. What makes it interesting, though, is that you can just plop a PHP file on a server that has PHP installed, and it will just work, no questions asked, no need to install anything difficult. It just works. And that's also a thing not a lot of languages can boast. The way it changed my thinking is, at least when I was using it about 20 years ago, is that its online documentation was fantastic. Not a lot of languages had that at that time. So it made it very easy to work with the language. You could look stuff up. Languages have caught up since, but PHP got there as one of the first. So next language is Elm. It appeared in 2012. It's a very purely functional language in which you can do front end. So it's very strong static typing. And this is the creator. Does he have a beard? Well, you know, a couple of years ago there was a big hype around Elm, and now the hype seems to have died down, so not really sure what that says about the popularity or the length of the beard. It looks like this. It looks very much like Haskell, and that's intentional. But what makes it interesting is that if you make a mistake in the program, then the compiler will give you a very long and very detailed error message. It not only communicates what the problem is in plain English, but it also suggests way in which you can fix the problem. And they go even further. If there is something about the explanation that you don't understand, you can log that as a bug, and it will be treated as a bug. So there have been some languages that have tried to copy this. Rust is one example, but Elm got there first. How it changed my thinking is that the pure functional approach fits my brain better than the JavaScript approach. However, I still find it hard to center a div. Okay, Lisp. That's the oldest language in this talk, and maybe the oldest language still actively used. It was originally used for AI research, and it's a functional language. And the creator, well, he has the beardest beard of all beards, I think. And the fact that it's still around since the 1950s, people are still using this, well, that explains a lot. It looks like this. The first thing you notice is the parentheses, and then you notice, well, it looks really different from all of the other languages that I know. But this is also what makes it very powerful. The minimalistic syntax actually provides a lot of power. You can slot functions in places where in other languages that wouldn't be possible. And with those functions, you can do really cool things. And for me, it's kind of like this Arabic calligraphy, right? It looks like complete gibberish, also to me. But at the same time, if I look at Lisp code or if I look at this, it's beautiful, it's full of meaning, it's very elegant, and I don't understand a word of it. Ruby, again, same year as Java, PHP. It's used for backend applications. It's very object-oriented, and it takes this object orientation very far, as you will see later. It's created by this guy. We call him Mats because the name otherwise is too complicated, I guess, for people. And you might not say he has a beard, but I'm counting it because he actually grew the beard after reading that blog post. So that's dedication to your language, right? It looks like this. Notice that you can put an if statement at the end of the line instead of in front. That's optional, but in some cases it makes for very nice reading of the code. But what makes it interesting, as I said, it's very object-oriented, and everything is open. So you can take an existing class, add a method in there, and it will just work. Just works. But also, the module thing is a class in the language, and because every class is open, you can open up the module class. Private and public aren't keywords, but they're methods. So you can change the meaning, and if it's April Fool's, I think a couple of days late, but you can switch the order around, the meaning around, and make public private and private public, and make a mess of your program, which is fun. How it changed my thinking is that since Rails 8, they have SQLite available in production by default. So you can use SQLite as a database, and you don't need a database server anymore. It doesn't work for every application, but if it works for yours, then it really simplifies your infrastructure. Delphi is also a language that I used a lot. Again, 1995, for Windows GUIs, object-oriented, created by Anders Heilsberg, who didn't have a beard at the time. And it looks like this. Again, its syntax is familiar, but instead of curly braces, they use words like begin and end. Otherwise, it's very similar. What made it interesting, though, is that it had a graphical user interface where you can drag and drop your GUI application together. You can just click a button somewhere and click an edit field, and it will all just work. And that made it very easy to create a GUI. For me, the way it changed my thinking is I was doing this in university, and at some point I needed a hash map. Delphi didn't have one, so I had to implement my own. And that way, that's a very good way to learn how a hash map works, right? If you don't have one, just implement it. And in fact, I also did the same with the compression algorithm, that I also learned how it works this way. Next one is C#, also used for GUIs, mainly in Windows, object-oriented, strong static typing. And it's created by, well, again, Anders Heilsberg, still no beard. It's like he's not even trying. And it looks very much like Java, except we put curly braces at the new lines instead of the end of the previous one. But what makes it interesting is that it has link, which is a built-in syntax for interfacing with things that are like a collection. So you can use that to query a database, but also a list or some other collection with a very SQL-like syntax, and that was pretty cool. It changed my thinking in that in Java we're used to using open source libraries, and if people ask money for their library, we kind of don't trust it. When I was working with C#, it was the other way around, because if you pay the person money, then they're more likely to keep maintaining the library, right? And that also flipped something in my thinking, and I thought, yeah, that's a good point. Okay, TypeScript, 2012, front-end language, compiles down to JavaScript as an interesting type system. And again, this guy, and really, it's like he doesn't even want his language to be popular. So TypeScript is probably not going to make it, I guess. It looks like this. Well, actually, it doesn't. This is JavaScript. Now it's TypeScript. But what makes it interesting is that it has found a way to capture all of the shenanigans that you can do in JavaScript, and there's a lot of shenanigans in there, and find a type system that can capture all that. And that makes it even more strong than, for example, Haskell's type system. It changed my thinking. Well, the picture doesn't work. I forgot what I was going to say this. Oh, this is nice. Well, great. Okay, well, let's do it without. The last language that I was going to use, was going to show is annotation script, which is written by me. I made a complete programming language only within Java annotation. So that one is really just for fun and torture. You can find it on my website. And that was actually the last one I wanted to talk about. There's a bunch more languages that I wanted to talk about, but time's almost up. There's also some languages on my wish list, like OCaml seems cool, and Gleam seems cool. And that's all I wanted to tell you. Thank you very much.